Moving right along then, we have the 3 single pages that we've already covered. It's time to move on to something a little bit different and a bit more photo work. So this time I have 5 4x6 photos. There are 3 portraits and 2 landscapes. So I need to find a way to make them all work. They're all taken at different times of one day, and these are kind of my remaining shots after I've scrapbooked a topic. So these are all from a friend's wedding, and I've done several individual layouts about that wedding, and now I'm left with kind of bits and pieces that fill in the gaps of that story. And I'm going to go with this bright rainbow chevron for the background, and because of the bits and pieces format, I'm going to pair a 12 by 12 with a divided page protector, and this just gives me a really easy way to cope with the extra pictures, but sometimes I design them all at once, side by side. This time I'm going to do my 12 by 12 and then quickly make a companion page here, so you'll be able to see all the leftovers, including the photos and the paper, go into the divided pages. So just set that aside for now and get started with this bright background. The first thing I need to keep in mind is that since my divided page protector has horizontal 4x6 spaces, I need to work with my portraits on this page, because the other option would be to crop them down to make them fit on the other page, whereas my 2 landscapes can easily go on the divided page. So I can put those aside for now and work with these 3 and figure out what would be best. Now, within these 3, there's one that can't be cropped at all. If I crop this photo, you're going to lose the beautifulness of the scene. That's probably the nicest photo of this set as well. The flower shot can be cropped down. It could be made into a square. It could be made into a smaller shape. And this one could be cropped down a little bit or left whole. So I think what I'd like to do is work with these 2 on the 12 by 12 and work with this one in the pocket so that I can crop it down to a smaller size. I don't think this particular shot is gaining a lot from the extra background here, so I will consider cutting that one down to 3x4 for a smaller pocket, or putting it within a 4x6 pocket. That leaves me then with 2 photos that I can totally work with. With the 12 by 12, I want to start somewhere around this sort of idea. The 2 photos are matted individually rather than on one block, because they are so different in style and different moments of the day, so I thought separating them out in this case would be better, and it doesn't really matter at this point if they're going to go straight up and down or at an angle. But then also a 4-inch tall block behind here of some black and white with little hearts to break that up. And the reason I've gone with the 4-inch strip here is because that's the same height as the boxes on the divided page protector, so that should give a bit of balance between the 2. And then on the divided page protector, I'll make sure that I include a 3x4 of this same print to pull it all together. But I want to start with something a little bit messy before I tack all this down. So time for the trusty pencil again. And I'm just going to mark off the placement of my 4-inch strip. And then I'm going to make sure my photos are out of the way because this step is messy. And I'm going to be using some white gesso and a stamp re-inker. What I want to do is tint the gesso so that I have a little bit of a custom paint, and you can just substitute in acrylic paint in whatever color you want if you prefer that. But I just find the gesso works really well in terms of texture and mixing up, and so I can just customize whatever color I want. So start with an acrylic block and put some of the white gesso on there, and then a few drops of the ink, and mix it up. And this part is just trial and error until we get the color to something that works well. And I'm not trying to match this to the pink that's on the page right there right now. I'm trying to match it to this pink, if possible. It's not going to be quite that salmon colored, I don't think, but it's not far off. Okay, and then I actually end up using the block to apply this to the page. So what I do is take my paintbrush and scuff it along the edge of the block. So you want the hard edge, not the rounded bit. Then place it on the pencil line and pull. And you're going to get all these little different texture marks. And I just repeat that all along both of the pencil lines so that I'm going to get this above and below my block of paper. Now, the gesso doesn't dry instantly, so it is quite forgiving, and it's going to dry with that texture in it. So where there is a little bit of dimension from the paint up on the page, that's still going to be there when it dries, and it makes for something quite unique in terms of the look of the finished project. And of course, you can experiment with different things to apply it with. Some people do prefer to use a gift card or old credit card or something like that to apply it in the same sort of way, but I find I get a bit more control with the acrylic block. And I just wash the acrylic block in soap and water when I'm done. It's not stuck like this forever or anything like that. It all comes off. And make sure you go right over the edge so it doesn't give you a gap. And this is the sort of thing that I like, where I've got it much higher on one side than the other, and then I'll mirror that. It'll be lower on this side than here. And I'm just going to repeat along the bottom line. I find it easier to do it in one direction, so I turn the paper and repeat the process on the other side. Now, because I have the matching reinker and ink pad, before I go ahead and put the next block of paper on top of that, I can do some stamping along that line as well. And I can mix in the color that I've already used for some images that will be a bit more subtle, and then I can bring in the black or a more contrasting color to add something that's a bit more bold. It just gives a little bit more depth to that same technique. And if the gesso isn't perfectly dry, you will just get a little bit of transfer back onto the stamp, but it cleans off without any trouble. So I think it's okay because the texture you get is really interesting. So it makes it a little unique. So just do a little bit top and bottom in the pink ink. And let it dry, and then add some more stamping in black over the top. And I've got this big heart motif that might be good as well. Now you can also stamp with the gesso on the stamp itself. So you can just cover the stamp with the paint, and then stamp it right onto the page. And the rubber stamps work better with that than the clear stamps, just because the surface is a little bit more agreeable. But it can be done with either if you've got the perfect image for your page and it's in clear. It's okay. Don't worry too much. Now my pencil line is there, and I've left some space where that heart is, so I need to come back in and stamp some other things. I'm just going to let it dry a little bit and stamp the rest in black. Same exact technique that I used before, where I'm going to use a mix of larger motifs and then the really small stitches. So you can refer back to video 2 if you want to take another look at the stamping. But I just, from here on out, it's the exact same technique. It's just that I wanted to add this layer of texture underneath with the gesso and then the stamping in the same color. There's all my stamping, and you can tell with the gesso there's a slightly different look to the stamping, even though I've used the same exact black ink pad. It just gives you that little bit of different texture. It is a messier look than using just the ink on its own, so I let you see it so that if it catches your eye, it's something you can try. If it looks too messy to you, you can ignore it forevermore, and you never have to try it with your own supplies. But I do think it can lend a really textured look that makes things look extra handmade, even if you're using all pieces in one collection. And then I'm going to pop my photos onto here. Just see how this one best fits. Actually, that works really well to just bring it up a little bit from the baseline, but keep it pretty straight. And what I'm going to do is bring in some little paper pieces to add in as layers there, but I also want to make sure I get the title and the journaling on there first, because that's going to let me just go to town with the embellishment, and then whatever I use on this page I'm going to match on the facing page to create the double page spread. So go ahead and stop and put my title and my writing on here before I run out of room, and then I can just add and add and add. In this case, it worked best for me to add the title directly to the empty space in the bottom of the photo, but if that doesn't suit your pictures, of course, you can move it up and put it onto the paper elements anywhere. But I did want to point out something like this can really help improve your titles if you're looking for a way to just jazz them up just a little bit, and that's to look at the spacing. I'm always looking for little spots where different letters will fit inside another gap. But here's another spot where these two letters both have that little tail, the little foot that they stand on, but this one doesn't. And then I can put the acenter from Moments, the taller bit of the T, that's the acenter. I can just put that right in between and have the word run across there, and it doesn't mess up the spacing. It makes everything fit together just perfectly. And then I brought in a little heart motif sticker since it was there on the same sticker sheet and matched, so too nice to pass up that little matching bit. Now if I'm going to do a 12 by 12 and a pocket page, and I know that that's what I'm going to do when I'm starting, then I often will go ahead and use a 3 by 4 card for the journaling, or 4 by 6, so that I have something on this page that's going to match the other side. Now this does mean I'm going to cover up quite a lot of all those hearts, and that might be more than you're willing to cover. Again, that's okay. You can notice it here and then not do the same on your own pages. This way I have something that's going to be easy to coordinate with later. And now I can start to look at just the embellishment. I want to bring in a few different types of embellishment, and one is something I haven't used at all, brand new chipboard pack that I can open now and start working with, and I want to show you why I chose this. So the collection we've been working with is white based. It's very sharp colors, bold patterns, black and white. And then this is a very vintage, cream based, softer toned, distressed collection. They're very different, and often that means they're harder to use together. But in some cases, especially if your eye is going to go straight to the photos, it means that they can work together. So I can add in some softer elements to take the edge off all of these hard edges and make it a little bit more wedding appropriate. So I'm just going to add in different pieces around these little edges. And then I'll also have some on the facing page in the divided pockets. And I don't worry too much if I end up covering up some things that I've already added. And I'll mix the chipboard in with some flatter elements too. So I'm not pushing them completely down on the page just yet, because I might want to have a little bit of layering as we go. And I wasn't hugely keen on the writing here, but I wanted to have the yellow so that I can pick that up on the facing page. So I think I'll cover that up and then put the bride and groom's initials on top of this. And let's see, I don't have enough to do it all in the pink letters. That was what I was going to use, but I need 2 R's, and I only have 1 in pink, but I have 2 in the yellow. And I'll find a little ampersand or a heart to put in between the 2. Oh, and in fact, there is an and word spelled out here. Oh, or there's a little rainbow ampersand. That might be better. Actually, I think that might be a little too modern there. Try the written out one. Just trim it down a little bit. Sometimes these little word block stickers are not perfectly cut and you end up with part of another one on the block, but they're easy enough to just trim. Okay, so let's start that again. What I'm trying to do here is to avoid having the gap, having that white gap go through the center of the R. I want it either all of the white on there or move it the other side. I don't want the white to make a line through the middle. Just my preference, if I can help it. Okay, that's a bit better. And I did want to bring in some pink there, so I think this little pink butterfly might be the best way to do that. I think because this page is facing that way, following the eye line of the little girl and the arrow there, that it's nicer to have this over to this side. And then I need some flatter paper elements to work in there as well, some die cuts or punched pieces, or flatter stickers to just balance this out, because if I keep building more chipboard, it's obviously going to get very, very tall very quickly. So I'll find a few softer paper elements to add in. And then really quickly, you can see the difference that just a few paper elements can make. So I've just tucked in a little label up here, and this is all one piece that comes pre-stitched. It just has all those lovely colors. This green's a good match here, so brought that in to have a little triangle of green. And then one little vellum piece here, which actually has the same word as what I've stamped underneath, and if you look really carefully you can see the stamped word through the vellum, so I really like that little finishing touch. And with this label, I've just cut it in half so that I can then use this half on the facing page, and I know I'll have something to bring it all together and make the other side match. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave this. I may come back and put on some tiny little finishing touches like enamel dots, but I'm going to leave it for a moment and do my pocketed page to go facing this. So it's going to be over here. The great thing is just how quickly the divided page can come together to live opposite the 12 by 12. So I start with the photos and put the photos in the pockets that they fit in. So I've cropped that flower shot down and kept the other 2 at 4 by 6 and just rounded the corners. And then I start looking for cards that would make sense with the design that I already have. So I've cut one to match the paper I've used over here, and then I've pulled things that had rainbow elements. Now these aren't from the same kit, but they have that same rainbow effect, and I think they work really well with that idea of embracing that rainbow of color but still trying to soften it just a little bit to make it match the pictures, but then also having something that's quite bold and hot pink because that exists on the facing page too. And then this yellow dot card picks up on the yellow dot card here. They're from the same kit, and just to have a little bit of coordination. Now I can figure out as I go what I'm going to add to each block and then pop it into the pocket. Now this one I went ahead and added some of the gesso when I had it out before so that I would have one that matches that sort of look. And I have a die cut that I saw when I was looking for paper elements on the other page, that this would make a really nice contrast piece to put in the middle there with some pop dots, although I think it needs a little something behind it, so I'm not going to adhere it just yet, but I can allocate that that's going to go in that spot on the grid. On this one I need to add the date, and I can do that with letter stickers, and I keep that pretty simple. And then I have these that need a little bit more work. This one I think I'm actually okay to leave almost entirely plain. I think maybe the center of the O would just be a good spot to put one little embellishment, either a single heart or a butterfly to match the other side. So I think I'll try the gold heart here from the chipboard sheet. I think that's the best size match. And there is a little bit of gold that I added into the other layout. So pop that in the pocket and consider that one done for now. This is also a good opportunity to find out which cards don't fit the page protector exactly, because when you are mixing brands you will find that some fit better than others, and sometimes you just have to get a little creative. That's okay. I have this piece that I saved from before. I think that could go nicely over to one side, running off the edge, with then a chipboard piece on top that's going to coordinate with what I put on the other side. Well, I had that row of hearts on the facing page, and then there's a set of just 2 hearts here. So I can make this all a little block that's just going to be dedicated to hearts. That's okay. And I do need to find something that's going to go behind that. I think chipboard's going to be too thick, so look for maybe something that's a bit softer. And I think this would be nice if I cut the bingo off the top. Just have the lovely little yellow grid of numbers, because the bingo makes it a little too much. But this on its own can be quite nice. Now, just like the layout I did in video 3, it's nice to go back and forth and try and find a little bit of something from each section of the embellishment to repeat. So just want to make sure that I keep this out where I can see it, and then I can find the little elements that I need to repeat. Well, what I haven't done over here at all yet is stamping. So I can take my same stamps and put them to use on some of these cards. So let's see. This one might be a good spot to do some pink stamping. Right onto the card. So just use one of the same stamps that I used on the other page, but on the other page I stamped it in black, and here, because I'm on the black and white paper, I'm going to stamp it in pink. See if I can just even out that tone a little bit. It does even out a little bit more as it dries, so I'm not going to worry too much. It'd be nice if I had a little word that would fit here. I think I have one that I stamped earlier that will, so I just need to find the stamp. And then that one I can do in black. So I'm just alternating. So what I had stamped before in pink is going to go in black on this one. And I'm feeling this one needs a little bit of gold now. Okay, that stamp set just wants to be on the floor. Both the packet and the stamp are now fallen off the desk. So let's see if in this die cut pack that had the different gold pieces, if I can find something that would be appropriate. I've got a little number 2. I like to use numbers for family and couple type projects, so that could work. There you go, and I think that's enough for this one. I'm going to need a tiny little pop dot underneath there to keep it from caving in. And don't put the pop dot backings into the pockets. There we go. Pop dot backings are the bane of my life, for just in case you wondered. I do get them everywhere. They end up all over the entire house, and just have to deal with that. Okay, with the rest of these, I think they are ready to go. Just looking at the chipboard sheet to see if there's anything else that might look really nice on this one. There are some little gold photo corners. That might be the final little touch for that one. I had one more gold heart, but I thought that was just a bit much. But this could be nice. Just looking for little details. And when you look at a sticker sheet or a chipboard sheet, anything like that, it does kind of take training your eye so that you don't just see the flashy pieces. You don't just see the big floral, the big frame, whatever it is that catches your eye. With me, it's normally cameras. There's a big camera in the middle of this one, but it's not going on this layout. And look for the smaller pieces, because those little details are going to add so much to the way that you embellish a page, and it's going to give you a much different style, that completely different look when you use all the little pieces. And those are the pieces that oftentimes people will look at your layouts and then say, oh, where did that come from? Because they don't even recognize it as a particular collection, which means it has even more of your personality attached, because it doesn't feel like it belongs to something else. It's just you. Okay, and I think with the flowers, I'm just going to put them in as they are right now. I can always come back and add something to them, but I think they look rather lovely just like that. It's quite an artsy photo where part of it's in focus and part of it isn't. But the 2 bigger photos I would like to add a little bit to. So what I would normally do is do some sort of strip of tape or something like that to give myself a spot to work with. I'm not so sure that washi tape is the best thing going forward here, because I feel like I've made the rest of the page a little bit more formal than washi tape. But I need some sort of horizontal element that's going to work with all this, so it might be best if I just either use a label, like a little die cut label, or a tag. But I do have some little labels. So, and in fact, okay, perfect. I have a green one that I can put toward the bottom of the page with the boys, and a pink one that I can put up here. And possibly this little flower is going to go on this layout as well. So I'm just going to attach these straight to the photos. So they go right to the edge. And then I'll add my little sticker captions or written words. And it's not going to need much to finish that off at all. With the letter stickers layered up, everything comes together pretty darn quickly, and I just have this card remaining. This one has the white border at the bottom, and I'd rather cover that up with something else. So I'm going to go back to that gray watercolor and use that to cover this. Just going to line it up and then trim it from the other side. and repunched the edges. If you're going back over a card like this, you can either just cut them with your scissors by looking at where the edge is, or you can use a corner rounder, whatever you prefer. So now I have that darker edge at the bottom, which is going to be better for grounding that, and I'm going to add in a little flower from the die cut pack. And the trick for this one is to make it run off the edge. So what I'm doing is paying really close attention to the edge here, because if I put it here and it is truly off the edge and I can just cut a little bit there, but then I end up with these little awkward gaps here. It works better if I move it all the way until that is going all the way off and you can't see anything through the leaves and the petals there. And then I just take off the extra here. And if I had more writing, I can add that on this card. And because these are just little kind of finishing moments for the pages, I don't have a lot of writing left. So I'm going to just do it as a little bit of embellishment. So look at what I have that I can match what I've already put on the facing page. So I can add in this little butterfly. Bring back this layout and look, I'm just worried about this box now, so I'm just going to look for what else I might put in there. And I think repeating this little set of stamps could be really pretty because it's quite a delicate set. So just find the wording there and finish that box with the same writing that I used before. So there is my completed double page. Just added that little stamped phrase down there at the bottom that matches what I stamped over here. And it gives me the opportunity to have a slightly more artsy 12 by 12, but balance it with a page that comes together really, really quickly for extra photos or extra journaling, whichever the case may be. And it's just a case of taking those embellishments and using more of them. Don't save all of these tiny little hearts for 10 different layouts. Go ahead and use 3 of them or 4 of them all in the same layout. Just keep adding in things, and I just keep telling myself that it's okay to use the supplies. Don't save them for another project, because this is what I bought them to use them for. I didn't buy them to keep them on a shelf. I bought them to put them in an album, and once I use them, then I'll be able to look at them forevermore in a really pretty state and never feel any guilt about having them on my shelf and not having used them yet. So I hope you'll give this a try, and it can be that this is a plain 12 by 12 as well. You could just have a 12 by 12 that has a few more photos. You can do 2 facing 12 by 12s, but if you do have divided page protectors and you like the look of mixing the 2 styles, then go ahead and give it a try. Now, one last thing I'll add in, because this question always seems to come up. What do I do with the back of this page? Well, I put pages like this in my albums all the time, and I'll be honest, it does not freak me out to know what's going on the back of the page. Usually it ends up being one of 2 things. Either in my album there'll be another set of photos that I can just do the same effect, except I'll swap it around, and the 12 by 12 will be on this side, and I'll have a page that's divided over here. So just add more photos and more paper like any other page protector where you would put another layout in the back. If the placement in my album means that I have this gap and I don't really have a good thing to go in between there, then I look at whatever that facing page is going to be. So when I turn the page in the album, whatever layout's going to be here. If there's no way for me to scrapbook something here, then I take a piece of pattern paper that I think would look really nice with this particular layout, or even a 12 by 12 photo that complements this particular layout, and I cut it up to fit in these pieces, and I leave it. It's super, super simple. It means that I don't have the back of the layout on show, and so it all works out really, really fine. But my biggest answer is just don't worry about it too much. Don't overthink it. And really, if somebody turns a page and they see this in your album, it's not the end of the world. The scrapbook police are not going to come get you. Please don't worry. So this is my my 2-page spread with one 12x12 and one with pockets, and I can't wait to see what this inspires you to make, and I hope you maybe give something a try that's a little bit out of your comfort zone if you're a nice, neat, tidy scrapbooker, or if you've never designed a page that mixes pockets with plain. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.